Welcome to our deep dive,
All right.
and today we're going to get into pricing,
Oh, yeah.
specifically the psychology behind it.
Cool.
So how companies use pricing to kind of nudge us towards, making a purchase
Yes.
without us really realizing it.
Absolutely.
And we've got a bunch of really interesting research and real-world examples to go through.
Yes.
So we've got expert interviews, academic studies,
Oh, yeah.
and even a glimpse into some pricing successes
Yes.
and some fails.
Well, very
So
interesting.
get ready.
Yeah,
You might never look at a price tag the same way again.
it's true.
So much of what we think about pricing is just about, slapping on a markup to the cost.
Yeah, and so many people think that pricing is just, cost
Yeah.
plus, like just add a little bit on top.
Right.
But, it's a lot more nuanced than that. It's
Yeah.
about understanding what makes customers tick.
Right.
Like what makes them want to buy something?
Yeah.
How do they see value? And what are those little things?
Yeah.
Psychological cues that can kind of make them go, okay, yeah, I'll buy that.
Right. Well, let's get into that.
Yeah.
That whole psychology of pricing thing. I was
Uh,
reading this study, and it was talking about
Yeah.
how if you just take the comma out of a price,
Okay.
like instead of $1,997,
Okay.
you make it $1,997,
Gotcha.
that it feels cheaper,
Right.
even though it's the same amount.
Yeah. Well, brains are funny like that.
Right.
We don't always think about numbers in a completely rational way.
Right.
The interesting thing is this whole thing about anchoring.
Anchoring.
Yeah. The first price you see,
Okay.
it kind of sets the stage for how you see all the other prices.
So it's like that initial price
Yeah.
is the anchor.
Exactly. It's the anchor, and it makes you think, okay, well, this is what things should cost.
Okay.
So if you are shopping for, say, a new laptop,
Okay.
you see one that's $1,500,
Okay.
and then you find another one very similar,
Right.
but it's $1,000. That first one, the $1,500 one,
Yeah.
that sets the anchor.
Right.
Makes that the $1,000 one look like a steal,
Right.
even though $1,000 is still a lot of money for a laptop.
It is.
But yeah, compared to that first one.
It feels like a deal.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So businesses can use this anchoring thing to their advantage.
Oh, for sure.
For example, they might put a really expensive product out there.
Okay.
Maybe they don't expect to sell a ton of them,
Yeah.
but it makes their regular stuff look more appealing.
Ah, I see.
You see this a lot with like premium versions of things.
Right.
It's like they're saying, hey, look at how expensive this one is.
Right.
Our regular one is a bargain.
I totally fall for that.
I know, right?
Especially when I don't really know the brand or the product category.
Yeah, that first price you see, it really sticks with you.
It does.
It makes you think, okay, this is the ballpark.
Totally.
Companies are very aware of this.
Right.
Like you might see a luxury brand.
Okay.
They'll come out with like a limited edition handbag.
Yeah.
And it'll be like ridiculously expensive.
Right.
They might not sell a ton of them,
Right.
but it makes their other handbags seem more reasonable.
Ah, I see.
It's all about perception.
It's really smart.
It is.
So we've talked about anchoring and that initial price point,
Right.
but what about the ongoing pricing strategy?
Well, yeah, so many businesses, they still use the cost plus model,
Okay.
which is basically figure out your costs
Okay.
at a markup.
Okay.
The problem is it doesn't really consider things like demand,
Okay.
what your competitors are doing,
Right.
and most importantly, how much value your product or service actually brings to the customer.
So if you're only focused on costs,
Yeah,
you might be missing out.
exactly. You might be leaving money on the table,
Right.
undervaluing what you're offering.
Okay.
Take Red Bull, for example.
Okay.
Are they really competing with other drinks on price?
I don't think so.
Or are they selling something more?
Yeah, it's like that whole image, the
Yeah.
energy, the excitement pushing boundaries.
Exactly. They're selling a lifestyle,
Right.
a feeling,
Yeah.
and that's why they can charge a premium price.
Right.
If they were just another sugary drink,
Right.
they couldn't get away with that.
That makes sense.
This brings us to value-based pricing.
Value-based pricing.
Yeah, instead of starting with your costs,
Okay.
you start by figuring out how much value your product or service brings to the customer.
Interesting.
What problem does it solve?
Yeah.
What benefits does it offer?
Yeah.
How does it make their lives better?
So it's about the outcome,
Yes,
not just the product.
exactly.
Okay.
Of course, figuring out that value and then explaining it to your customers.
Yeah.
That can be tricky.
Right.
It's not always easy to put a number on those emotional or intangible benefits.
Okay. But if you can nail that value proposition,
Yeah,
you can justify charging more.
absolutely. Let's say you're selling software.
Okay.
That helps businesses streamline their operations,
Okay.
saves them time.
Right.
Instead of just talking about features and functions,
Right.
you could talk about how much time they'll save,
Right.
how much
Mhm.
more efficient they'll be,
Okay.
and ultimately how much more money they'll make.
So you're framing the price in terms of the return on investment.
Exactly. It's not about what you're charging.
Right.
It's about what the customer is getting
Makes sense.
and that perceived value.
Yeah.
It can really help overcome any objections to the price.
Interesting. So you're kind of shifting the conversation away from cost
Yeah,
and focusing more on value.
exactly. It's about changing how customers think about price.
Okay.
And that's where the psychology comes in.
This is fascinating.
It is.
So we've talked about anchoring
Right.
that initial price point and how that affects our perception.
Yes.
We've explored cost plus pricing versus value-based pricing,
Right.
but there's still so much more to uncover
There is so much more.
about how companies use pricing to get us to buy things
Absolutely.
without us even realizing it.
Yeah, we've only just scratched the surface.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Well, next we can look at some specific pricing tactics
Okay,
and really dive into the psychology behind why they work.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's dive deeper.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about some specific pricing tactics
Okay.
that businesses use to kind of,
Yeah.
influence our buying decisions.
Okay.
One that's really common is what's called charm pricing,
Okay.
where prices end in 99 or 97.
Right.
You see that everywhere.
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
Like $19.99 instead of $20.
Exactly. It seems so normal now.
It does.
But there's actually a reason why it works so well.
Okay.
It's not just that it feels cheaper.
Okay.
It's about how our brains actually process information.
Okay.
We read from left to right.
Right.
So that first number,
Yeah.
like in 1999,
Okay.
it has a bigger impact on us
Okay.
than those cents that come after.
So our brain kind of like grabs onto that first number.
Yep.
It makes a snap judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is a $19 thing.
Right.
And this works best for things that are lower priced,
Okay.
where that 1 penny difference seems like a bigger deal.
Right.
But for really expensive stuff,
Yeah.
it can actually backfire.
Interesting.
Like it can make the company seem a little bit gimmicky.
Okay, so a luxury car
Yeah.
priced at $99,999.99.
Right. Exactly. It wouldn't have the same effect.
It would seem kind of weird.
Yeah. In those cases, a nice round number,
Right.
it just feels more sophisticated, more high-end.
It does.
It's like charm pricing.
Yeah.
It has to fit with the whole image of the brand and the product.
Okay, so the tactic has to align with what you're selling.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about price differentiation.
Okay.
Smart companies, they don't just have one price.
Right.
They have different tiers,
Okay.
different price points to appeal to different types of customers.
I like those good, better, best pricing models.
It's exactly like you see with software subscriptions
Yeah.
or phone plans.
Right. Different levels of service.
Right, each tier.
Yeah.
It's for a different type of customer
Okay.
with different needs and a different budget.
Makes sense.
Think about airline tickets.
Okay.
You've got economy,
Right.
premium economy,
Right.
business class,
Yep.
first class.
Of course.
Each one comes with different perks,
Right.
different levels of comfort,
Right.
and of course a different price.
Yeah.
And the goal is to give people enough choices
Yeah.
that there's something for everyone,
Right.
but also to nudge people towards the tiers
Okay.
that are most profitable.
Ah, so it's not just about giving choices.
Right.
It's about strategically designing those choices.
Exactly. Sometimes companies will make that lowest tier
Okay.
kind of limited
Right.
to push people towards those mid-range or premium options.
So that basic tier is kind of like a decoy
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
to make the other one seem more appealing.
Exactly. It's subtle,
It is.
but effective.
Okay. So we've got these psychological levers
We do
that businesses are pulling behind the scenes.
all the time.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Now, what about bundling?
Oh, bundling.
It's like a classic.
It is a classic.
Combining multiple products or services
Yeah.
for a single price.
Yeah.
Why does that work so well?
Well, it makes decision-making easier,
Okay.
and it kind of hides the individual prices.
Okay.
Think about a value meal at a fast food restaurant.
Okay.
It's easier to think about spending like $10 on the whole thing
Yeah.
than to think about how much each piece costs separately.
I never really think about
Right.
how much each piece costs separately.
Exactly. And good bundling.
Yeah.
It creates this feeling of getting more for your money.
Right.
The combined price seems better than if you bought each thing on its own.
That makes sense.
So it's not just about throwing things together randomly.
Right.
The bundle needs to make sense.
Okay.
It needs to feel like it's worth it. The things in the bundle need to go together.
Okay.
And they need to be things that the customer actually wants.
Right. Like those gift baskets.
Yeah, exactly.
Around the holidays.
Some are good.
Right.
Some are just a mess.
It's true.
The good ones,
Yeah.
they feel more valuable,
They do.
even if the individual things are similar.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's talk about something that sometimes gets a bad rap.
Okay.
Dynamic pricing.
Dynamic pricing?
Yeah,
Like Uber surge pricing,
yeah.
concert tickets.
Yep.
Those prices that go up and down.
Right. It can feel unfair,
It can.
especially for things that you really need.
Right.
But for businesses,
Yeah.
it lets them react to what's happening in the market.
So when demand is high,
Yeah,
they can raise prices
exactly.
to make more money.
Right.
And when demand is low,
Yeah,
they can lower prices to get people interested.
exactly. It's about finding a balance.
Right.
But the key, I think, is transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah, customers need to understand
Yeah.
how dynamic pricing works,
Right.
why those prices are changing.
And otherwise it feels like a trick.
Exactly when it's done in a sneaky way.
Yeah.
It makes people lose trust.
Right.
But when it's done openly and honestly,
Yeah.
it can actually be good for both sides.
So businesses and consumers.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about payment plans.
Okay.
A lot of people see that as a way to
Yeah.
overcome objections to a price.
It could be a way to make a big purchase,
Right.
feel less scary
Okay.
by breaking it down into smaller payments.
Okay.
You don't get that sticker shock
Yeah.
that makes things more affordable
Right.
for more people.
That makes sense.
I've definitely been tempted by payment plans,
Me too.
especially for things like online courses
Yeah.
or coaching programs.
Yeah. It feels less overwhelming
Yeah.
than paying a big lump sum up front.
And for businesses,
Yeah.
it can help them make more sales
Okay.
because people are more likely to say yes
Yeah.
if they can spread out the payments.
But there are risks too, right?
Of course.
For both sides.
Yeah, for businesses.
Yeah.
They have to worry about people not paying
Right.
or paying late,
Yeah.
which can mess up their cash flow.
Okay.
And for consumers,
Yeah.
they need to be careful
Yeah.
not to overspend
Right.
or get stuck in a payment plan
Okay.
that they regret later.
So both sides need to think carefully
Yeah,
about what they're getting into.
absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about a tactic
Okay.
that often creates a sense of urgency.
Okay.
Limited time offers.
Ah, yes. The classic flash sale
Right.
or early bird discount.
Yeah.
These play on our fear of missing out,
I know.
right?
I've totally made impulse purchases
Me too.
because of a limited time offer.
That countdown timer,
Oh, yeah.
it can really get you.
It does.
It's a powerful thing.
It is.
We tend to value things more
Okay.
when we think they're scarce
Right.
or only available for a short time. But those limited time offers,
Yeah.
they have to be real,
Okay.
not just a marketing trick.
So it's not about creating fake scarcity. It's about giving people a real opportunity
Yeah,
to get a good deal.
right.
Okay, so transparency is important.
Transparency is key.
Right. People should feel like they're making an informed decision,
Absolutely.
not being pressured.
Right.
Okay, speaking of transparency,
Yeah.
another tactic that plays on urgency
Yeah.
is the countdown timer.
Oh, yeah. Those ticking clocks,
Oh, yeah.
they can really get your heart racing.
They do.
That's the point.
Right.
They're there to show you
Yeah.
that time is running out.
Like last chance.
Exactly.
Right.
And they're especially effective
Yeah.
when you combine them with those limited time offers.
Right. So it's like a double whammy.
Exactly. A double whammy of psychological pressure,
Wow.
but they can also backfire
Oh, how so?
if they're too aggressive
oh.
or if they feel manipulative.
Right.
They can actually push people away.
So it's about finding that sweet spot,
Yeah.
creating urgency without being too pushy.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears again.
Right?
Talk about a tactic that uses social influence,
Okay.
testimonials,
Oh, yes.
and social proof.
We all love reading those glowing reviews.
Oh, don't we?
Before we buy something,
Yeah.
it's just human nature.
It is.
We want to know what other people think.
Especially for big purchases.
Yeah, especially then.
Oh, right.
We want to feel reassured
Right.
that we're making the right choice.
Makes sense.
So testimonials,
Yeah.
they tap into our desire to fit in,
Okay.
to follow the crowd.
Okay.
It's like they're saying,
Yeah.
hey, look, everyone else loves this. It
Right.
must be good.
I don't want to miss out.
Exactly.
Right.
And testimonials,
Yeah.
they're especially effective for expensive things
Okay.
where trust is really important.
Right.
They help reduce that feeling of risk and make people feel more confident.
About
Thanks,
buying
Rania.
online courses?
Yeah.
Or coaching programs?
Exactly. Seeing those positive reviews from
Right.
people who've had great results.
Right.
it can be very persuasive.
Yeah, it's like getting a recommendation from
Yeah.
someone you trust,
Exactly.
even if you've never met them.
Exactly. It's a powerful form of social influence.
Okay, let's talk about wait lists.
Okay, wait lists.
Yeah, I've noticed more and more companies
Yeah.
using wait lists.
It's a clever way
Okay.
to make it seem like something is in high demand,
Right.
like there's limited access.
Like I'm
Exactly.
excited.
Right. It plays on our desire to be part of something exclusive.
Right.
And that feeling of exclusivity,
Yeah.
it can make people willing to pay more.
Right.
It's like those limited edition sneakers
Yeah.
or designer handbags.
That people wait in line for hours to buy.
Exactly. The scarcity,
Right.
the exclusivity,
Yeah.
it adds to the value.
Wow, this has been so eye-opening.
It is fascinating.
I'm starting to see just how much psychology
Yeah.
goes into all these pricing strategies.
It's not just about the numbers.
It's not.
It's about understanding people.
Okay.
What motivates them, their
Mhm.
biases, even if they don't realize they have them.
So we've talked about charm pricing,
Yes.
dynamic pricing,
Right.
bundling the
Yeah.
power of wait lists.
Absolutely.
It's amazing
It's amazing.
how much psychology goes into influencing our buying decisions.
It is, and there's still more to come.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
When we come back,
Okay.
we'll explore a few more pricing tactics,
Okay.
and then we'll wrap things up with a thought-provoking question
Okay.
to leave you pondering.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to our deep dive all about pricing psychology.
It's been a fascinating journey
It really has.
through all these different tactics and strategies.
So we've explored, charm pricing and dynamic pricing and bundling and even wait lists.
Mhm.
But there's one more approach I want to touch on before we wrap up,
Okay.
and that is subscription pricing.
Yes, subscriptions.
They're everywhere these days.
They are everywhere you look.
It seems like everything is moving towards that model.
It's true.
Think about Netflix, Spotify, all those services where you pay a monthly or annual fee.
Yeah.
What's driving this trend?
Well, for consumers,
Yeah.
it's the convenience.
Okay.
It's predictable.
Makes sense.
You pay a set amount,
Right.
and you get access to a ton of stuff.
Right.
And for businesses,
Yeah.
it's that beautiful recurring revenue.
So they're not constantly chasing new customers.
Right. They can focus on keeping their existing customers happy.
Right.
It's a more stable business model.
That makes sense.
But of course, subscriptions have their challenges too.
For sure. What are some of the downsides?
Well, for businesses,
Yeah.
the big one is churn.
Turn.
Yeah, when people cancel their subscriptions,
Right.
it's a constant struggle to keep people engaged.
Yeah, keep them coming back for more.
Exactly.
And I think on the consumer side,
Yeah.
you get that subscription fatigue
Oh, yeah?
where you just have too many recurring payments.
Too many things to keep track of.
Right. It's hard to even remember what you're paying for sometimes.
So for subscriptions to really work,
Yeah.
transparency is key.
Okay.
Companies need to be clear about what they're offering,
Right.
why it's worth that ongoing fee.
It's like any relationship, right?
It is
Communication is key.
Exactly. Keep those lines of communication open.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit.
Okay.
Talk about pre-orders.
Pre-orders, a great way to build excitement,
Okay.
generate some buzz
Right.
before a product even launches.
Yeah, it's like getting a sneak peek,
It is.
reserving your spot in line.
Exactly. And for consumers,
Yeah.
it can feel like you're getting special access
Right.
to something exclusive.
Especially if it's a highly anticipated product.
Right. But of course,
Yeah.
there are risks.
By both sides.
Yeah, for businesses,
Yeah.
they might overestimate demand,
Yeah.
end up with a bunch of leftover inventory.
Makes sense. And for consumers?
For consumers, the risk is
Yeah.
that the product might not live up to the hype.
That's true.
So it's a bit of a gamble.
It is.
But when it's done well,
Yeah.
pre-orders can be a win-win.
Okay.
Businesses get those early sales,
Right.
and consumers get to be among the first.
Right, to get their hands on the new thing.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about an approach that's a little bit unconventional.
Okay.
Pay what you want pricing.
Oh, interesting.
So the customer gets to decide
Yeah,
how much they're willing to pay.
it's a bold move
It is.
for businesses.
Right. It seems risky.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it also shows a lot of trust
Okay.
in your customers.
Right. Like, we trust you to value our product fairly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You often see this with businesses
Yeah.
that have a strong social mission,
Okay.
or maybe they're trying to stand out in a crowded market.
So it's a way to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
Appeal to a certain type of customer.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about flat rate pricing.
Flat rate pricing.
One price, everything included.
Simple,
Right.
easy to understand.
No surprises.
Exactly. People love that.
It's a breath of fresh air.
It
in a
is.
world of complicated pricing models.
Right, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always work for businesses.
Okay, why not?
Well, it works best
Yeah.
when their costs are pretty stable.
Right. So if their costs are fluctuating all over the place,
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
not really.
That makes sense.
Okay, and finally,
Yes.
let's talk about the good old-fashioned discount.
Discounts.
Everybody loves a good deal.
I do.
Discounts are great for attracting new customers,
Okay.
getting rid of old inventory,
Right.
creating a sense of urgency.
Yeah, there's something about seeing a price marked down.
Oh, yeah.
It's exciting.
It triggers something in our brains.
It does.
But businesses need to be smart about discounts.
Okay.
If you discount too often
Yeah.
or too much,
Right.
it can actually hurt your brand
Okay.
and your profits.
Makes sense. So it's a delicate balance.
It is.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
It's incredible how much thought goes into pricing.
It's more than just picking a number.
It really is.
It's a mix of psychology,
Yeah.
strategy, economics.
It's fascinating.
It is.
So we've learned about understanding your customers,
Right.
understanding your market, and
Yeah.
all those little cues
Yeah,
that influence people's decisions.
absolutely. And the landscape is always changing.
Right. New technologies, new trends, new ways of doing things.
Exactly. So we need to stay curious.
We do.
Keep learning.
Absolutely. So we hope this deep dive
Yeah.
has given you a new appreciation
Yeah,
for all the things that go into pricing,
Right.
how those decisions are made
absolutely.
next time you're out shopping,
Yeah.
whether it's online or in a store.
Take a moment.
Take a moment, think about the pricing strategies you're seeing.
Yeah, you might be surprised
You might be.
by what you notice.
And with that, we'll leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
Think about a recent purchase you made.
Yeah.
Something you felt really good about.
Okay.
What role did pricing play in that decision? Was it the actual price, the perceived value?
Or maybe a clever psychological trick.
Right. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Until next time.
Happy shopping.